Excuse me?
You can start.
Whenever I want. Okay. Thanks for coming. You are happy to explain the theme? And maybe some people have lectures. We are all on the same page. We are just lazy. We have a couple of slides and then John, are you ready?
One moment. What's the channel for today? 12?
I think it's 5.
5.
I will confirm shortly.
So there is no sound count? One, two, three.
Okay, so let's start this lecture. Thank you very much for coming to this first lecture of IT Toolbox. So I'm Jean-Christophe Nebel, but feel free to call me JC. I think it's easier for everybody. So I'm the module leader for IT Toolbox. So today it's more of an introduction about IT Toolbox. What is the concept of IT Toolbox thinking? Okay. And as I said in my email, at the end of this lecture, I will set your first piece of coursework. Okay. So first of all, I would like to introduce your teaching and learning team. So there are two lecturers, myself, when I look younger and more hair, and my colleague Pushpa, still very handsome. So Pushpa will be doing the lecture next week, so we'll be alternating between both of us. Both of us have different type of expertise. I'm more, if you want, in the programming side, and Pushpa is more onto the social media, e-commerce, so we'll be sharing the lecture according to our skills. There are two lectures, but there are also 7 what we call academic mentors. Okay. So academic mentors are basically students like yourselves who did the course last year. They did very well. We have interviewed them. They have showed that they are very committed to the course. They are keen to help you in your different types of coursework and assessment. So you will have that team of second-year students who will be helping you in your coursework. Because through the year we have discovered that when sometimes we have workshops headed by lecturers, students are a bit shy, they don't dare asking stupid questions, and it's much easier to ask students like themselves. They were there last year, they struggled like yourself, and but they have managed. They are successful students, and now they are keen to share their experience and help you with technical assignments. So 2 of them have been kind to come this morning. Please come to the stage, introduce yourself, and give a brief introduction of what kind of support academic mentors are offering.
Okay, so I'm Jake, and obviously I was here last year, second year computer science. Basically, us academic mentors are to give you support with the IT Toolbox module and the programming module. Basically, if you have any problems or struggling with a bit of work or something like that, do not hesitate to email one of us, and we will help you. I can't think of anything else that we do.
My understanding is that you are having a Facebook group.
Yeah, that's in the process of being.
Yeah, so it's being organized. That's fine. It's not going to go lower. So they have surgery hours. So basically, every day you will have a slot where you will be able to meet some of the mentors. Obviously, they respond to email. Some of them will be using WhatsApp and any modern way of communication. So basically, any problems with technical problem with this module or the programming module, just go to them. They are possibly much better than the lecture themselves. You know. They have been working on those specific problems last year. I mean, there have been some small changes this year, but nothing major. They achieved very well. They have been specially trained, and they are motivated. And they are getting a bit of money out of it as well, I believe. So maybe some of you would be interested to become academic mentor next year. And one way of becoming an academic mentor is to do well in the module this year. Okay. So thank you very much for coming. So they will be contacting you soon with information about their surgery hours, how to join their Facebook group, and so on. You have already their email addresses in those slides. All my slides will be available on Study Space shortly after the lecture. Okay? So thank you very much. You can go back to bed.
Last thing, we're going to be sending email through the Kingston University, so do check your email to know like what's going on as well. First email would be like to the Kingston University one. So.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good day. Yeah. Good. So you can see you have some motivated students who will be supporting you during the whole year. Okay, so let's start the lecture itself. So I've decided to study information system, computer science, software engineering, or some form of computing with business. So you are on the path to start a career in the IT world. Okay. So welcome to that world, and I think it's a very exciting world. Okay, with great opportunities. And I've been working in that world for more than 20 years, and every week I still get a bit of buzz with the new stuff which is around and the new things. But also a very difficult world. Okay, it's not like, let's say, mathematics, you know. There's not new stuff coming up every week in the mathematical world. Okay, you study your stuff at uni, and you are fine for your whole career. In the IT world, it doesn't work like that. Okay. You will be studying and learning for the whole of your life. Okay. So that's maybe a bit of a shock for some of you, but it's tough. Okay. You cannot allow yourself to rest and say, yeah, I know that technique, that programming language, I'm fine for the rest of my career. That doesn't work like that. Okay. So that's also why it's very exciting. There's always something new. Okay. So which means that university is not really about teaching you everything you need to know. It's really about teaching you how to learn the new stuff which is going to come up. Okay. So I like starting my lecture with that quote. Okay, so interesting quote. And so you may be thinking that the person who wrote or said that was someone who didn't know much about IT, possibly. Actually, it was the chairman of IBM who said that. Okay. So he was the guy at the core of the IT revolution. Yeah. So that was the time. So the black and white picture somehow help telling you when it happens. So that was in the 40s. Okay. So it was at the time, I don't know if you have seen the film, imitation game about the life of Alan Turing and his effort to decipher the Enigma machine. Very interesting film. And that's how a computer in the 40s looked like. Okay, so it would take half of this room. And obviously, at that time, it was very expensive, would require expertise that very few countries would have. So basically, only superpowers could afford to have a computer. So you would assume that Britain would have a computer, Soviet Union would have a computer, maybe Britain, France, and China. That's your world market of 5 computers. Okay. So obviously things have changed a little bit since then. And we are going to use our clickers just to check that everything is working. So the channel is 5, okay, for this room. And you can start voting. So tell me how many computers do you personally own? So computers is obviously any PC, laptop. You may have a Raspberry Pi, a tablet, a smartphone. 5. Should be channel 5. Already 4 people managed to vote, so in principle it's working. Can do better than that. Only 13 responses. No? Not working? Could people...
Channel 5.
0.5, yes, sorry.
Some sort of waffle, some last
Are doing better, 36. Surely we can get what could be our goal for this first poll. 60. 55. 58, 60. Everybody has voted. Anybody wanted to vote has voted. Okay, let's have a look at the results. Let's go up to 70 if we can. Okay. Okay, so that's the outcome of our live vote. So very few people own only one computer, and the largest minority, almost 1/3 of you, have 3 computers. So I guess it must be a smartphone, a laptop, and then maybe a PC or a tablet. That's likely. But we can see that people, quite a large amount of people, 21%, have more than 6. Okay. I don't know if they are still all active or they are all machines that are just taking dust in a cupboard. But you can see that in 70 years we have moved from a world market of 5 computers to a place where every single student here have at least one, and the majority have 3 or 4. Okay, so as you can see, the IT world is in permanent flux, always something new. So you are too young, but I'm a bit older than you, and I can remember when the first PC arrived in the market. It was the early 80s. Okay? Can you imagine that there was a world without PCs? I remember typing my first report with a typewriter. Can you imagine the work? Oh, horrible. And 91, another great breakthrough in the world of IT, the internet. Wow. People use PC for 10 years without internet connection. No, but you know, for you it's natural, you just connect, you have access to the whole world. But it's not that old, 25 years old. Then Wi-Fi came up 6 years later. 2001, the concept of big data. You will have a lecture on big data if you are not familiar with the concept, but something which is extremely important in the modern world of computing. Yeah, you have heard about this machine which is winning in playing the world of the game of Go. They are using big data techniques, you know, to achieve that type of performance. Facebook, wow, 12 years old. So I guess you are the Facebook generation. As soon as you were able to handle the keyboard, you had a Facebook account. Okay? But for people like myself, it's still quite a new thing, you know. And then there was the tablet, which appeared only 6 years ago. Something really new. So you can imagine with all those new things happening all the time, a student who would have graduated at the end of the 80s wouldn't know anything about the internet. Okay? So, you know, if they want to still to be at work in the industry today, they should have caught up quite seriously, because can you do anything without the internet today? Okay? Can you do anything without social media? Can you do anything without big data, even if you don't know much about it? iPads. Is it sensible to build applications which cannot run on tablets? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Or do tablets have the future? You know, because things come and go. Have you seen that? Does it ring any bells, this picture?
That's the thing for Snapchat, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Very good. So some people are following the tech. So that was launched in September 2016. Last week. Wow. But that's very important. Okay, Snapchat has designed some sunglasses with an integrated camera, which will allow you to capture a 30-second video. Okay. Is it the new internet revolution? Or is it a fad which is going to disappear? We don't know, but you need to follow those trends, okay? Because if in 5 years' time everybody is using that type of glasses, obviously you want to integrate that type of data in your applications. You should remember also that a few years ago we had this Google Glass. They made a lot of noise at the time, and they disappeared. Yeah, they vanished. But then Snapchat is coming back with something a bit similar, so maybe the idea is still there. It's just that piece of tech which has disappeared. Okay? So, you know, it's a very dynamic world, and you always need to be aware of what's happening. What are the latest trends? Is there something which is making noise, and I need to become aware and maybe technically competent in that type of technology, okay? Because obviously the people who will be able to generate the first apps using the data produced by those glasses, they are going to make a bit of money, okay? So please follow the news, at least the tech news, because maybe that will give you the edge, which will allow you to compete in the industry and be part of the best. Okay, so what we are going to do in this course is really about changing your mind. Okay, you have been IT users for at least a decade, let's say. but you have been user. Now you are going to move on the other side. You are going to become IT professionals. Okay? So which means that now each time you are using a piece of kit, a piece of software going on a website, you need to think what is behind that. What kind of technology is used there? How do they do it? Okay? Because eventually you want to be able to do it yourself and better. Learn from that. Okay? And we want you to be ready for tomorrow's systems. Okay? We are going to teach you you are going to, during your time in Kingston, you are going to learn a few techniques and stuff, but eventually some of those systems, those programming language will disappear in the next few years, and new ones are going to appear. Why is that one not working? Anyway, so it's really about learning how to learn and to keep up to date with the IT world. So basically, it's to become autonomous in this worldwide and wild world of IT. Okay. So to illustrate this point, I'm asking you a simple question. Maybe you have no idea, and if you don't know, it doesn't matter. I have a list of programming languages, and which one do you think is the key language that you should be learning? Okay. If you have no idea, that doesn't matter, or choose I. Just to have an idea about first if you recognize those languages, and then if you have some idea about how important they are in the modern world. I've put them in alphabetic order, so I haven't tried to push for one language or another. Already 67. Are you going to do better than last time? Now that you have warmed up. Let's try to get to 80. Yes, we are. Okay. So it looks like a large amount of you believe that Java is really the language they want to learn, so possibly the language of the future. Quite a few have C++, and then we have JavaScript and Python, and the other ones are very few people interested in those languages. Interesting to see that C# has 0%, and R as 0%. Maybe you have never heard of R. Possibly.
What is R?
Next slide. Okay. So here are some interesting statistics. Okay, so they have been collected by the IEEE. So it's an international organization which regroups all professionals in electronics and computing science. Okay, so there are a couple of international organizations for people like ourselves, IT professionals, but I think that's the main one. So if you don't know about IEEE, maybe you want to do a bit of research about it. They are very important in producing academic journals. So when academics like myself do some pieces of research, want to publish them, usually we go to a IEEE journal because it's the top of the top. So every year, they are polling their members and doing some investigation about what are the top programming languages. Okay. So we can see that number 1 is C. Number 2, Java, Python, C++. R is number 5. Then we have C#, PHP, JavaScript, and many other languages. Okay. And that's just the beginning of the list. Okay. There are hundreds of languages around. Okay. Here we have just the most important ones. Something else which is quite interesting to look at when we look at that list is these small icons. Okay. They tell you where that language is used. So the first one is for basically web applications. Second one is mobile applications. Then you have for the world of enterprise. And then for embedded systems. So that would be the language used to program a robot. Or your magic hoover, which is going to clean your place when you are not around. Or maybe what you have in some fancy coffee machine and stuff like that. Okay. So that's the embedded world. So you don't have the power of a big computer, so you have a small chip. You don't have much memory, but you still have to perform some complex tasks. So you need some specific languages for that. So you can see that depending on the type of IT activities you want to have, if you want to work on the web, just forget about C. It's not relevant. You are not going to do some good work if you program in C and you are on the web. And maybe you would like to choose Java instead. Okay? On the other hand, if you want to work on embedded system, if you want to work on the next probe, which is going to go on Mars, maybe C is a good option. Okay? C or C++. So C++ is an evolution of C. Okay? So very often people program in both languages at the same time. C is a subset of C++. C#, you have heard about C#? Yeah? So C# is a Microsoft version of Java. I think that's a way of putting it. Okay, you know that Microsoft likes to do their own things. And Java became very popular, so they came up with an alternative which is called C#. And you can see that they have the same profile, very much for the business world, apps, and web applications. So again, depending on the type of environment you will be working on, maybe you will not have the choice and you will have to work with C#. And okay, you know Java, but you need to switch to C#. The good thing is that generally all those languages are quite similar. When you know one or you know a couple of them, you have some idea about their philosophy, how they work, and you can switch to another language quite easily. Okay. Personally, I switched from C++ to Java in less than a month. Okay. Less than a month, I became a competent Java programmer, coming from being an expert in C++. Okay, so that's coming. You have some seeds there. So just a reminder that the lecture starts at 9, not at 9:30. Okay, so that's the view on the 26th of July 2016. Okay, the dates are very important, as we saw in the IT world. Okay, what is true today may not be true tomorrow. Okay. And what are the latest news? How does this ranking change from the 2015? and the previous one, because that's what we are really interested in. Okay, you are studying at Kingston, you will become an IT professional in 3 or 4 years. You don't really care what is the most popular language today. What you're really interested in is what will be the most popular language in 3 and 4 years. Okay, because that's where you are going to get your first job. So Java this year has been overtaken by C. Java has been leading this ranking for at least 5 years. And now, this first time, Java is going down. Okay? Which is quite interesting because C is an old language. Okay? When I was at uni, we studied C. And still around, and it's number 1. So is it that less people are using Java, or maybe Java has now some new competitors? So it's not that more people do C, but instead of Java, people turn to Python or C#. Okay, but it's quite an interesting trend. You know, Java was really leading for years, not anymore. Python has been rising. Okay, every year in the last 5 years is going up in the ranking. Okay, so it's a language to follow.
Companies like Python.
Yeah.
It's easy to learn and to use.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think one strength of Python is even someone who is not an IT professional, but quite bright, can manage to do some good stuff in Python. Okay, I know that I have colleagues in doing biology, and when they need to do some data analysis, very often they use Python. Okay, so it's quite easy, not as powerful as Java and C, for example, but still allowing you to do quite a bit. The big one that you should follow very closely, I think, is R. So 2 years ago, it was in place 13th. Now it's 5th. Okay, so this one is going some big jumps, going to the quickly towards the top. Okay, so is it finished or is it going to carry on? That's the question. You should follow the news and follow those rankings. So it's a language, it's a mathematical language to do statistics mainly. Okay, so it's not, as you can see here, it's only for the business world. Okay, it's not to do some fancy web applications or putting robots on the moon. Okay, it's really to do some number crunching. Okay, and in this world of big data, it's becoming more and more important. Okay, so now it's number 5 in the list. So again, you need to think about what you would like to do in your career. Is it the kind of stuff you are excited about? If you are, start having a look at R. There is that language that I've never heard of called Go. Anybody heard of Go? No? So, free open source programming language created at Google. So it has quite an important backer. And again, it has been moving up. And now it's in the top 10. So it's still a bit below the radar. But with Google behind, what can happen? We don't know. Okay. So again, you need to be aware of that very dynamic world of computing science. Just an example regarding programming language. At Kingston University, you will be focusing mainly on Java, PHP, JavaScript. Some of you will do also C++ and Python, okay, depending on the different options and courses. And I think it's a good choice. Okay, it doesn't matter really if it's number 1 or number 2, because Java and C++ has somehow the same philosophy. When you know one, you should move to the other one quite easily. On the other hand, PHP is quite different. So I think it's nice to know these foreign languages. It's not like if you know one language, you can switch to the other one. It's a bit like if you speak Portuguese. Switching to Spanish is not a big deal. Now, for a French person like myself, in a couple of months, I was able to speak bad Spanish, because languages are very similar. On the other hand, if I had to learn Russian, that would be so better at school maybe to learn two things very different, so then you are better prepared for any alternative dialect, let's call them. Okay, so what I wanted to illustrate mainly is that you really need to be able to learn by yourself. Okay, you are going to learn a couple of languages here, maybe 3, maximum 4, but it's really yourself who is going to decide what language I'm really interested, what trend I'm following, in what type of activity I want to build my career and learn about that language. Okay. So you are all going to become IT professionals. But what is an IT professional? Okay, what kind of job does an IT professional do? So, we say a programmer, app developer, and so on. Actually, there is a very long list. Okay. So maybe your next job title is part of that list. But the thing which is very nice is that maybe your next job title is not in that list. Maybe it's being created today or next year. If it's a Snapchat glass developer, it's not there. And who knows what kind of application you can do with that type of gadget. Okay? So again, it's a very fluctuating world. So as I said, now that you are becoming on the path to become IT professionals, you at every moment, each time you are using some IT, you should start asking you questions. Okay? You cannot be a passive user anymore. You need to be active to know what is behind. Okay? How does your mobile phone know where you are? Yeah, GPS. So what is GPS? In practice, apart from the acronym?
When communicating with multiple satellites, determining latency between signal and multiple different satellites relative to position and coordinates on Earth.
Excellent answer. Very good. So it's a network of satellites which are above our heads, and using some triangulation, you have an idea about where you are. Okay. What is the accuracy of GPS? Yeah. But are we speaking about centimeters, meters, hundreds of meters? A few meters, yeah? So when you are using it in your car, maybe you are in the wrong, the next turn is actually the previous turn. Or, you have this kind of accuracy depending where you are. So it's a few meters, okay, depending where you are. Have you heard about Galileo? You haven't heard about Galileo? You want to become IT professional, you don't know about Galileo?
Is that
Terrible.
the European GPS?
Yes, excellent. That's the European GPS. So GPS has been around for quite a long time now, at least on the time scales of the IT world. And GPS is administrated by the American militaries. Okay? Which means that if they want, they can switch it off. we can imagine situations where they would like to switch it off. Okay? And obviously, with so many applications, so many companies relying on GPS all over the world, having the switch of buttons somewhere in the hands of an American general is maybe not a very comfortable situation. You can understand that. Also, it's an old system. Okay? I mean, this accuracy of a few meters, you miss your street. Really, we want to do better than that. Okay? And that's what Galileo is about. Okay? So it's a European project, and it's the next generation of GPS, if you want. Okay? So again, it's something to follow, because at the moment, all the apps based on locations are using GPS. You need to know when Galileo will be turned on, and people will want to use it, because at least in terms of accuracy, it will be much better. Okay. So, how can Google offer a driverless car? Do they use GPS?
They need the better system with the
So you have an accuracy of a few meters. Is that good enough to prevent you to crash in the car which is just in front of you?
car also senses things around it.
Yeah, so, you know, they are using GPS is one component they are going to use, but they are using other things.
They use sonar.
Yeah, they have some kind of radar around the car, they have some cameras, they have different sensors, but what I want you is to ask yourself the question, you know. Now you are becoming IT professional, there's no magic anymore, you know. Someone like yourself wrote the code, installed the system. So you need to ask yourself permanently, oh, that's cool. And you shouldn't stop there anymore. Now you say, how do they do it? Can I do it? Okay. Because the big question is, when you haven't tried something, you are very impressed and you think, yeah, that looks scary. Can I do it? How many of you have their own website? 2, 3 people. So I can tell you that by Christmas, all of you will have their own website.
Have a project.
That's part of the activities you will be doing in Active Toolbox. Okay? And when you haven't done it, it sounds a bit scary, you know. You know, I know nothing about IT, and that crazy French professor wants me to have a website in less than 3 months' time. But you will do it. Every year, all the students manage to do it. So you will do it. No problem. But, you know, you will have to study. You have to a bit of sweat, but eventually you will get there. Okay? So that's what IT Toolbox is about, you know. Don't be scared by all those technology, those fancy words. There are people like yourself who build those systems. So ask yourself the right questions. And if you are interested, go further and maybe try to replicate or even improve. So that's the message, you know. If you see something cool, maybe you want it. But it's not just having it passively. You want to be able to reproduce it. You know, you have a website, and you start browsing the web, and you see something really nice. That's a feature that my website should have as well. Get it. You know, we are going to show you how to get it. Okay, give you the ability to go behind and learn and develop what you are interested in. Okay, so as I said, it's the IT world is in this permanent revolution, and we don't know what the next big thing is. Okay, I've added on that list those new glasses. Last year I had something else, and it didn't make the noise that I expected. So I removed it from the slide. I put something else, so something new. But we don't know, and you need to be following that IT world. So it's about today and it's about tomorrow. Okay. Sometimes applications need time to get to their peak. So what are the latest trends? Okay. So one obvious trend is the mobile world. Okay. How many of you have a smartphone? Shall we say most people? Yeah. And so is the mobile phone replacing the computer? I mean, I know people who have both and who do most of their work on their mobile, actually, you know. And so, you know, that's again a trend to keep in mind, you know. If you build a website, it's very likely that people will access it as well with their smartphone. If it's just designed to work on a desktop computer, you may not get many hits, yeah? So, look at the tablets. Okay, they appeared in 2010. That was a big announcement from Apple. And here is the sales in the PC world. So you have the desktop, PC, laptop, and tablets. Okay. So you can see that the desktop, the trend is slowly going down. Same story for laptops, but for tablets, there's been a huge boom, and now they are selling more tablets than anything else. Okay, so that's an important trend. So is tablet the future? Shall we forget about laptops? So maybe you will get desktop in companies and tablets for home usage. That's a question that we don't know the answer yet, but if you do the right bet, you may become one of those millionaires. Yeah. Interestingly, so that's the trend up to next year. That's the trend for the following 2 years. So the sales of tablets is now going down, or will be going down. Maybe that everybody who needed a tablet have one, so you need a couple of years in order to renew it. Or maybe some people were quite excited and bought a tablet because of all the hype which was behind, and eventually decided, yeah, for my type of application it's not so useful, and I keep it for the kids. A lot of children have tablets. Yeah. So, interesting trends, okay, and that's the kind of stuff you need to be aware of and to follow. And so you need to look at what there is in the world, okay? I mean, the UK is a very exciting place. I really enjoy the UK. But it's small. Look at this small red dot on the map of the world. You can hardly see it. I mean, the quality of the map is not great, but I think it illustrates quite well that the UK is just a small country. Less than 1% of the world population. So maybe it would be interesting to look at other places, okay? And maybe what is interesting is to look at places which are quite different, because maybe something interesting is going on there, okay? You can look at what's happening in the US maybe, but US, UK, you know, the culture, quite a lot of similarity. So we may be missing something if we are looking only to our close neighbor, either geographically or culturally. What is the largest country in the world? China. Yeah, in terms of population. Yeah. And in 2025, India will be the largest in terms of population. So you know, at the moment everybody is excited about China, and they are right to be excited about China. But India is behind and growing fast, okay? So if you want to get maybe the latest trend, start looking at India. Maybe something interesting is happening there.
China already has 1.3 what, will they start growing or?
I mean, China have, you know, this one-child policy, and people are getting richer and richer, so they're getting smaller families. So the growth is not going to carry on at the current pace. It may go down, actually.
9 years from now, we cannot know if India won't have that one-child thing as well.
Yeah, no. Obviously, there are estimates. You know, you cannot. I mean, the future is just guesstimates. Okay, we do the best we can, but what I want to illustrate is actually at the moment in the news, you see a lot about the UK, a lot about the US, quite a bit about China, not too much about India. My guess is maybe it's worth having a look at what's happening in India. Maybe you will discover something interesting about the next trends. So just an example. Here I have looked at the trends in terms of TV sets and telephones in India. Okay, and for a while, you know, it was much more important to have a TV set than a telephone in your home. Okay, and that has completely changed. Now, in 2011, it was becoming more important to have a phone than a TV set. If we look at the number of mobile per individual in 2014, you can see that it's more than the number of telephones per household in 2011. Okay. So it means that now the landline is becoming something really of the past. People are switching directly from no phone, no TV, to smartphone. Okay. That's quite a revolution. Okay. Obviously in the UK, every household has currently one TV and one phone. And in terms of mobile phone, we have around 125% mobile phone per person. So each of us has more than one. Between 4 of us, we have 5 mobile phones. Okay, that's an interesting trend, and it has been increasing seriously. But is it the end of the story? You could say, yeah, once everybody has a smartphone, that's it. Okay, maybe you still have your previous version somewhere in a drawer and you forget about it. But if you look at the trend in Hong Kong, they have almost 2.5 smartphone per person. Okay, so that's quite different. Yeah. So is it an interesting trend? It's different, and maybe that's where the world is going, or maybe they're just crazy people who have too much money and buying. We don't know. Looking at this Indian trend, I could get this article saying that for the first time in 20 years in the US, people are buying fewer TV sets. Do you still need a TV? If you have a good internet connection, yeah, you can stream, have everything on your. So that's an interesting revolution. Okay, because the TV was the centerpiece in the household, where people will have their family meal and you have the TV in the center, everybody watching the same program. Things are evolving. Okay, so and depending on the part of the world, you get some different feel about that evolution. So keep your eye open and look around and don't be just UK specific. Another thing which is quite interesting is when you have a PC, I mean, like in the library, everybody connects on the PC, and you don't care. When you have a mobile, do you share your mobile with people? I mean, maybe sometimes you share it, but you don't feel so comfortable. Yeah, it's okay. You know, it's a bit of an effort to share your mobile. It's something very private. Okay, it's very different from your laptop, for example. For me, it's easier to share my laptop than my mobile because the mobile is an extension of myself. Okay, and that's important as well because it means that since it's very personal, possibly it has very personal data. Okay, it's things that I don't want to share with other people. But it means that I could be using those data for health-related applications. Okay, because I know that nobody else is going to touch at my mobile, so I'm happy maybe to get medical records on that. But maybe I wouldn't be happy to have that on my PC at home, because maybe the whole family will be using that PC. Okay, here is just mine. Okay. So again, when you think in terms of developing some new applications or some apps, you should think, okay, I'm dealing with people who will be using that app using a mobile, so their data are more confidential maybe than data which would be on a PC. Also, but obviously you have been following all those snooping stories about President Obama's listening to the calls that Chancellor Merkel would get about these celebrity photo leaks. Regularly we get that in the press. That was the latest one last week. The sister of the Duchess of Cambridge would have had her account hacked, and there would be thousands of pictures of herself available for sale somewhere. So, in one hand, you feel that your data on your mobile are safe because you are not sharing the device with anybody. On the other hand, you have all those hackers trying to get them anyway to another way. So again, it's something you need to be aware of and think of when you are developing apps. Still, we have a lot of apps now available to deal with your health. Okay, you have just a few examples. You can monitor your sugar level, which is important in this world where obesity is becoming more and more an issue. You have heard about Fitbit. And but also that's something which is becoming very important because initially all those apps are becoming a personal thing, okay? But now insurance companies are getting interested in that. Oh, you are using Fitbit, you are running 20 miles a week. Yeah, you must be someone very fit. So your premium could go a bit lower. Why not? Okay. Or no, you are using the sugar intake app, so maybe you have a problem of overweight. So maybe your premium should go a bit higher. Okay. So initially you get all that stuff for free, you use it, and you have those big companies which obviously wants to optimize their business, and obviously they want to make people who have unhealthy lifestyles to pay more than people who have healthy lifestyles. Or maybe they will just offer contract before healthy people. Okay, so again, it may be a very big change in the way our society is going to work. Okay, because at the moment, the NHS, is very fair. It doesn't look at how you look like. You have a problem, they will deal with you without asking for anything else. Now you have these things around. I know that there are apps that give you some money. If you run a certain amount every week, they give you some voucher, some stuff, to encourage you. Okay, so we are already on that slope. Okay, and that's maybe a very interesting trend to follow, or maybe an interesting trend to stop and decide, no, that's not fair, that's not the way the society should discriminate between different people. Okay? But that's something which is happening, and you need to be aware of it. Social media. So obviously, when you initially think about social media, you think, yeah, Facebook, yeah, fun. But social media obviously is much more than Facebook. Yeah? And it has also a very big impact. And it has such an impact that businesses really need to evolve in order not to die. Okay? So let's take an interesting example. So in the past, the industry, you had a brand, and you would nurture your brand. You would make sure to always have the same message, always have the same color code. Either you want to say that you are cheap or it's a luxury product, but you are fully in control, and people or brands were built through decades. Okay, you know that Chanel is going to be luxury. It's French stuff that's been around for a century, and it has been a long time to create that kind of brand, and it's something very precious to those companies. However, these things are changing. Okay, so after Chanel, we will look at Yves Saint Laurent, one of their competitors, and let's have a look at their website.
Yes, I'm a party girl, crazy girl.
Okay, so you can see that it's quite stylish. They are not using any color. It looks maybe classical. Okay, it's maybe not for the young hip hop generation. Yeah, but it's trying to show a certain aspect. It's all in white and black, and try not to offend anybody, and they use some special font and so on. Okay, so that's the image they have been building through the years. Okay, and that's what they are selling. So their public, their market, is people who like that kind of stuff. Yeah. On the other hand, now you have fans taking advantage of social media, and they are going to create, for example, a Pinterest about Yves Saint Laurent, because they like Yves Saint Laurent. Okay? So they are not even trying to be detrimental to the brand. They really like it. But what they are showing is something very different. Yeah? So now if you Google Yves Saint Laurent in your browser, possibly you will get to the actual Yves Saint Laurent website, or you will get to that website. Okay. And I'm not saying it's a bad website, but the image is very different from the previous one. So people have spent millions building a brand, and now you have alternative view of that company, which may not fit that brand. Okay. So for people involved in marketing, this social media revolution is a headache. Okay.
Not necessarily. I think it's a new way, but
I mean, it's also a new way. I mean, what is important is they can take advantage of it, and maybe they are going to be able to sell more stuff eventually using social media. But again, it means that you cannot stay still. If you are Yves Saint Laurent and you carry on always doing the same stuff, eventually your brand is going to be diluted by those alternative ways of showing up. So it means that Yves Saint Laurent's marketing people have to embrace that new technology, but they need to control it somehow. Not allow it to go wild and get something completely different. So there are new challenges, and companies are very good. Some companies are very good to take up those challenges, that they are growing, and some no. I mean, if you go to Kingston, you remember VHS. It closed 3 weeks ago.
Well, it was closing down since like 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, but that's definitely closed down now. I could see people taking the shop furniture out of the shop the last day, you know, and they didn't manage to adapt. You know, there was Little Woods as well on the market square in Kingston. They are gone. So some companies are going to evolve, take advantage of those techniques, and some are not, and eventually they are going to disappear. And they will need people like yourself to make that jump, okay? And to keep on the top of the trend all the time, okay? Because today is social networks. What is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be this 30 seconds video, the big thing? You all know about Airbnb? So that's also, everybody knows? Yeah? So everybody can now open a B&B, you have a spare room for a few months, your son is on holiday or touring the world, you can rent it. And so you are making competition to hotel and standard B&B which are open the whole year long, okay? And since it's a bit ad hoc, usually your prices are cheaper. Okay? And it's not your main way of living. You have a job, but you have a spare room. So why not rent it? And that's making a lot of noise in the tourist industry because they spend all that money building up those hotels and preparing all those bed and breakfast, and someone like yourself will say, yeah, I have a spare room for a few months. Are you interested? And you don't need to do any advertising. You just go to this right social network like Airbnb, and you're on business. Okay, so things are really changing. Imagine the poor letting agents. You know, already with the internet, their task, you know, has become more difficult. So there are new business models appearing. And I'm sure that the guy or the person who had the idea of this Airbnb is now a millionaire. Okay? They started from scratch, just had a good ideas. I assume the initial investment was not very big. You know, you just need to have a few friends with a spare room, and you start building your business. And after a few years, you're a millionaire. So that guy, you know, they got the trend right. They understood the potential, and they said, yeah, I stopped the Facebook, and I'm running on that social network, because that's where the money is. You know TaskRabbit? No? So, again, similar trend, it's about social media, and it's about small jobs. Okay, you have just been to IKEA, you have your flat-pack living room, and you cannot bother reading the instruction. You go on TaskRabbit and you say, yeah, I give 10 quid to the person who is going to build my kitchen or my living room. Small jobs, you know. Or, yeah, I'm going to the airport tomorrow, I have some huge suitcase, and or my granny is going to the airport tomorrow, she has a huge suitcase, I cannot go with her. Is there someone who would be happy to go with her? I give them 20 quid. That's what TaskRabbit is about. So, very small jobs. Okay. And that's something completely new. In the past, you could ask your neighbors, and that was it. Uber, yeah, things familiar. They started in 2009, and they really have created a revolution. So, just getting some news from the BBC, okay, So, protests in London by cab drivers. It goes from protest to war somehow. In France as well, being Latin people, the protests get a bit more fiery. Spain, Germany, Korea, still about Britain, and now they are trying to fight against Google. Okay, they want to have self-driving taxis. Okay, I mean it's not bad for a small company which started 7 years ago. They are creating a revolution worldwide, and they are challenging one of the biggest companies in the world. Okay. And that's social media. Again, there's not a big investment behind it. Mainly a new idea. And social media allow that idea to develop and to be implemented. Big data. So I mentioned that big data was a big trend, and that 15 years ago the world was created. So big data is really about collecting the data which are generally produced on the web. We are hundreds of millions of web users every day, and all that usage of the web leaves a trace. And by doing careful analysis of that trace, you can learn about the behavior of people. Okay. So one big application was published in the journal Nature. Heard about the journal Nature? Is the top scientific journal in the world. Okay. Usually all the Nobel Prize winners, they published in Nature. Okay, so it's really the best of the best in terms of research. And so there was a paper about influenza, so the flu, which was published in the journal Nature. And the authors, you would say, okay, were they from the MIT? Were they from Kingston University? No. Google, this very famous academic institution. So Google, by collecting all your search requests, they managed to study that and get some useful information. And what they managed to do is to detect flu epidemics. Okay? I mean, it's quite interesting because Google is not a bunch of medics. They're just IT professionals. They know nothing about the flu. Okay? But they realize that if you collect the Google search, that after, when in a place, people say, okay, I'm feeling a bit dizzy, I'm a headache, I've been in bed for 3 days. You collect all that information, it means that people are not feeling well, and the symptoms are looking like the flu, so it's likely that many people in one area are getting the flu. So by collecting all that information, so that's a typical big data task, they were able to find out that, yeah, in that part of the country, a lot of queries are about people having flu-like symptoms. Okay? And you need to remember that people will, I mean, I do, I guess many of you must do it as well. When you are not feeling too well, maybe you are Googling your symptoms before you are going to your GP. Okay? Or maybe before you are going to a hospital. And first you need to go to the GP, then to the hospital, so there's a delay. Google knows that you have the flu before your GP knows it, and before you have gone to hospital if you needed to go to hospital. Which means it's very important information because Google maybe a couple of days before everybody is going to go to the GP because they are feeling bad, they know that it's going to happen. So you can see the advantage for a national health service. You can call all their GPs saying, yeah, in 2 days' time, we are going to get very busy, and we know what they need. They all need the right medicine for the flu because the flu epidemic has just started. So you can see the value of those big data, this big data work. Okay, and the flu is a really serious disease. Okay, I mean we speak about Ebola, about Zika virus, and all that stuff. But every year there is between 250,000 and 500,000 people dying from the flu. Okay, that's serious. From the Ebola virus, which was on the news all the time, we don't get that type of numbers. In a bad year, like 1918, it was estimated that between 50 and 100 million people died from the so-called Spanish flu. Okay? So, it's a very important application that, you know that if you can treat someone early, you have a better chance of recovery. When you are dealing with such huge number of people, logistics is very important. If you know that the flu epidemic is starting in Cornwall, because Google is telling you that, time to take the trucks, feed them with all the drugs from London, and go to Cornwall. That's the thing you can do thanks to applications like that, because you get information a couple of days before the GP and the hospitals are aware of it. Okay. So that's why such an important result was published in this Nature paper, because that's really changing the life of people, saving lives. Yeah. So that's what big data is about. Okay. Harvesting everything which is on the net and trying to deduce behavior of people and maybe detect abnormal activities. I mean, I can tell you that the secret services are doing that all the time. Okay, if people start emailing or sending, asking stuff about critical material events and so on, they are going to collect the data to have an understanding of where the next bombing or stuff could happen. Okay. That's the serious big data, but big data is also about marketing. Okay. They want to know what is your behavior when you are browsing the net. When you are going to the new website of whatever company, are you going to use the top menu, the side menu? How long are you going to spend on the different items? Look at Amazon. They are getting more and more clever. Oh, you want to buy that, but you may be interested in all that stuff as well. How do they know about that? They know that other people who like that did that, but also they remember the last time, you bought a bicycle. So maybe 6 months later, you are interested in a puncture kit. Okay? I mean that's big data. So they are looking at what other people do. So it's likely that you are going to behave like them, at least partially. And they are looking at what you do personally, and I'm trying to say, oh, you remember you look at this nice dress last time, you found it a bit expensive, so you didn't buy it. Yeah, but this time, you just got your salary last week, maybe it's time to get that dress, And I'm sure it does work. So that's the world of big data. And that's where the R language, which is all about those statistics, is very powerful. Okay? So new opportunities just by collecting free information why is Facebook free? Big data is the answer. They are collecting all that data, and then they give you the adverts which are likely to attract your attention. There's also, we are looking at, so big data, it can be historical. You are collecting data for a given period, and you are trying to get some behavior, some understanding of behavior. But you may be interested in real-time data. What are people doing right now? Okay. So, as I said, at the moment you have this control center, you have all these cameras in the cities, people watching that. Now it's happening online, as I said, in shops. Someone is on my website and looking at that, and at the moment they are about to leave, that's the time to keep them on board by offering maybe a special offer or something, And that's big data in real time, They want to attract you, to keep you on your website, on their website. Another interesting trend is the 3D printer. And it may affect international trade. Okay. So that's the shipping lanes. Okay. So you can see that a lot of stuff is coming from China, and quite a lot of traffic between North America and Europe. And what are those people moving around on those ships? Okay. Good. But now you need to think that any plastic object, you could make it at home. You don't need this cargo ship anymore, traveling all around the world to bring you your plastic duck that you have ordered on the internet. You don't want to wait. You don't want to go to the shop. You don't want to wait for Amazon to bring you a parcel. You want it now. You buy, print, and you have it. Do you know the story about the cargo ship and the plastic ducks?
No.
There was a cargo ship full of plastic ducks.
Oh.
And someone in the Pacific Ocean, I think. And eventually the ship sank. All plastic ducks went up, and they followed the currents. And thanks to that, the scientists could map all the currents in the Pacific Ocean. Just follow the plastic ducks. So a lot of pollution as well because of that. So that's maybe the solution. No more cargo ship with plastic ducts, but you just print it at home. And remember, in the past you had to buy CDs. You don't buy CDs anymore. Do you still buy CDs? Some people are still back to the long plays because it has some added values. But CDs, now you get electronic music. Well, it's cheaper, and you get it now. Okay. So the same revolution. Okay. And I don't know if you remember those shops, which were all over Britain. They have closed. Nobody is going there anymore.
I don't think they're fully closed.
Excuse me?
I don't think they're fully closed.
Yeah. This one was the world's biggest shop in the world, which closed. Okay. So maybe there are small branches which are still around, but I remember when I was a teenager, one of the weekend activity was to browse those shops, look at the latest CDs and stuff. That's not what people do anymore. You can do it from the comfort of your mobile. So there's been a huge revolution in the world of music because of the digital nature of the new music. Maybe it's going to happen in the world of international trade. Okay. Okay. So until now, everybody doesn't have a 3D printer. Okay. If you look for a 3D printer, you can find a few in the university. Now you have shops in Kingston, I think, where you can go with your USB key, plug it in the printer, and they get your object. But I can assume that in the near future, it will be very cheap to get a 3D printer, and you will have it at home. So again, it's a completely big change in the way trading is going to be, and you are the people who are going to allow that trend to develop. So if you are interested, start researching on that topic. E-commerce. Have you heard about Ocado? Yeah. You have seen their lorries around in the streets. So that's become the UK best online supermarket, and since 2010, so they are doing well, obviously. And again, it's online, but you still have issues of advertising, branding, and so on. So here is a question for you. How much did they spend on their website? I mean, it's a nice professional website. People voted them the best supermarket in the UK. It's online, so they only access that website, the company using the website. So it must be a top quality website. Okay. I mean, it has been running for maybe 10 years, so every year they are investing in their website. But their website is really the key element of their success. Okay. Rubbish website, end of the company. So, is there money to make in website design? That's the alternative question. Are we going to reach 80? 3 more? 78?
Oh.
80. Excellent. Okay. So it's quite divided. You didn't like my crazy figure of 100 million pounds, apparently. But there's still quite a lot of variation between 10K and 10 million. Okay. But it's quite unclear what is, there's no majority or strong trend. So I'm going to give you the actual figure. $300 million. So there is a lot of money to make there. If you are good in website design, that's just one company just spent 300 million. How much of those 300 millions do you need? Yeah? 1 million each, that would be enough. So e-commerce is big money. So that was just to illustrate what IT Toolbox thinking is about. Okay. Now your eyes and ears need to be in alert, and you need to know what's going on. That shop is closing. Why? Is it because of a problem of IT? They didn't follow the right trend. What is it telling me about the trends? This new technology is appearing, or there is a scandal about safety of data, or all that stuff. And obviously the more basic stuff, you are using an application doing something really cool, very interesting, something you have never seen before. Looks like magic. No, there is no magic. There's just technology behind it. Okay, so you need to get that technology, have an understanding. Okay, maybe you don't need to go in the very details, but you need to be aware. You need to be able to see people. If someone asks you at home tomorrow, what is big data? Now you have a way of answering. Give a couple of examples. Okay, you need to be at the top of the trend. So the good thing is that this year of IT Toolbox is going to support your journey towards this IT awareness. So we will be doing many things. We have 20 lectures. So what is the client-server model? How things happen online? How does the data come from here to somewhere else? Issues of reputations, how to influence. We have spoken about social networks already. And then some understanding of cost, time. Okay. I mean, I ask you a very tricky questions about the costs invested in that website. Everybody got it wrong, and everybody would have got it wrong. I mean, it's impossible to imagine 300 millions. But still, quite a few people said 10K. Okay, that's a big gap. And you shouldn't be that wrong, eventually. Okay? Because imagine you are given a job, and you say, okay, I want you to make that website for me, or that app for me. And you are going to say, yeah, I can do it in 2 months. And you need 2 years. So I say, no, that's okay, I pay you for 2 months. And you deliver 2 years later. So you need to have an understanding of time and cost for developing one thing or another. Okay? And also you need to understand that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I want you to be able to design a wheel. Okay. I want you to be able to go back from scratch to have some basic understanding. But after a while, you are going to use the tools which are around and not develop everything yourself. Okay. So you need to build a set of resources. You know, where am I going to go if I need some information about this or that topic? As I said, you may want to use programming frameworks instead of just a programming language and do everything from scratch. And as I said, you need an international, global view of what's happening in the world of IT. Ask you a question about those big players in the IT world. And eventually, I want you to try stuff. Okay? But the beautiful thing is, in IT, you cannot break anything. You cannot harm yourself doing experiments. Okay? Just code, software. And as I said, we'll be looking at aspects of e-commerce and help you to make money if you want to invest time in those activities. So, as I said, very soon in the year, you will be designing and building a mobile app. You will be exploring client-server technology. You will have your website, the first version of your website, well before Christmas. You will have a blog. You will start building some reputation. Okay? People need to know. You need to put yourself on the map. Okay? So that in 3 or 4 years' time, people know about you. Yes, that's that clever chap which writes a blog about all the new technology appearing all the time. It's very interesting. I connect every week to see what are the latest trends. Because you do all the work. You do the research and say, yeah, that's the trend of the week. And hopefully you will have followers and say, yeah, no, that guy is very, very good at spotting the trends. And that's your reputation. And when you are looking for a job, you have already that behind you. And also it's about, finding help. Who is going to help you? Okay. So initially you will have your tutors, but then you will discover that there are professional forums which are around, and different places where you can get help and support. Okay, so that was a quick introduction about the module. So now I'm going to tell you exactly how it works. Okay? As I say, all my slides will be on study space, maybe in half an hour, if I don't get hijacked between here and my office, which happens sometimes. Okay, so you have a lecture every Tuesday between 9 and 11. This room is the main room, and then there is an overflow room for when this one is full. The overflow room, there are very few people in it at the moment. They could have squeezed here. So eventually, I think the overflow room will disappear. As you have seen, we are using clickers. We are going to use it more and more. This one was mainly to check that everybody had it and we knew how it worked. All the lectures are on YouTube. Okay, we have our team filming us, which means that if you miss something, you can go back to the lecture. You are doing your assignments, there is a specific point you didn't get, you can go back to the lecture on YouTube. Or there is one day you cannot come to the lecture for whatever reason, you can catch up by getting out on YouTube. Okay? So there is no workshop in this module. However, I will ask you to do a piece of coursework that I call an activity. Okay? Activity because I want you to be active, to do things. I don't want you to write essays. Okay? It's getting your finger dirty, okay? Building stuff. So it's going to be every week. And the deadline, so I will give you the activity usually around that time at the end of the lecture. You will have 4 weeks to complete it. Okay? The deadline will be on the Monday at midnight. And it will be through electronic submission. And it will be marked. So let's go a bit more into the details. So, as you have understood with the philosophy behind Hattie Toolbox, the activity is investigating what is behind the scene. Stuff that you are using maybe every day. How does it work in real? How do they make money? All those questions. Or maybe it's going to build something, like a website. And it's an opportunity to make mistakes. And that's great to make mistakes. Because we are in a safe environment, you make a mistake, it doesn't matter too much. You are not going to be sacked. But in 3-4 years' time, a mistake can be a big problem. Okay? And you will be obviously not working always on your own. You will have friends, colleagues, your mentors, and people outside which will help you to solve. Generally, a couple of hours will be sufficient in order to complete an activity. Okay. So in terms of time, it's equivalent to a workshop. So it's an assessment. So during the teaching block 1, you will have 10 activities. Each of them will be worth 3%. Teaching block 2, activities become a bit more advanced. Successful completion gives you 4%. Okay? 20 activities, 10 in each teaching block. It means that 70% of the final mark will be coming from activities. Okay? So it means that if you work regularly, you can pass the module quite easily, I think. So the marking is binary, which means it's pass or fail. Okay? We are speaking about 3 and 4%. Okay? I don't want to give you half points or if your work is satisfactory, you get the full mark, 3 or 4. If it's not satisfactory, you get 0. Okay? Satisfactory doesn't mean everything is correct. Okay? Doesn't mean that. It means that I feel that you have worked hard on the topic, you got the gist of what you had to learn during that week, and maybe you didn't get some points, but that's not too much of a problem, okay? But I felt that globally, you have understood. You have understood, you get a pass, which is 3 or 4%. If you didn't bother, didn't do half of the question, or obviously didn't study for that activity, you get 0. Yeah? Simple? So the timeline. I'm giving you the activity during the lecture. There is a first deadline, which is next week. Okay? Actually, it's Monday midday next week. If you submit by that time, I will mark your activity. If it's satisfactory, I tell you it's satisfactory. If it's not satisfactory, I tell you it's not, and I give you the opportunity to do it again. Yeah? So try to do it by the first deadline, because if it's not right, I tell you it's not right, what to do to improve, and you still have 3 weeks to do that. Okay? So in principle, everybody should get all the activities right if you organize yourself and work every week. Yeah? So next week, I will have marked the activities of the people who have submitted by that first deadline. You will know if you have passed or not. And if you haven't passed, you can resubmit. And during the class, I will give you some feedback about the submission. I will tell you what the class as a whole did well, what are the different difficult points of the activity according to the class, which means that using that feedback, you should be able to do well in your second submission if required. Okay? And obviously, next week, you will get a new activity. Okay? So it's better to work on that first deadline. Otherwise, at the end, you are overwhelmed. You have 4 activities arriving at the same time, and you are at risk of failing. And the final deadline, as I said, it's 1 month after the set date. Yeah? So for these first activities, here are the deadlines. They are already in your module guides. Okay? And I will not give you any extension. Okay, there's no point coming to my office and saying, yeah, I had a busy week. No extension. Okay. Either you have a medical health issue, you go to the student office, ask for mitigating circumstances, they accept it, and you get the related extension. If it's just by bad organization or too much work this week, that's your problem. Okay? It's only 3 or 4%, so it's not the end of the world if you don't complete it. Okay? And you have 1 month to complete it, and it's roughly 2 hours of work. Okay? So an extension doesn't make sense. So as I said, 20 assignments, those activities, 70% of the mark, and then a big piece of coursework that would be a whole website. Okay. So during the year, some activities will be building parts of that website, and that will be bringing everything together, improving it, polishing it, and that will be 30% of the final mark. And the deadline is close to Easter time. Okay, so there is time. That's 25th of April. Okay, so the activities, here you have the list. They are divided in 4 categories. One what I call IT fundamentals, one about web prototyping design, one about web of data, so that's e-commerce, big data, that kind of stuff, and then about opportunities and trends. Okay, so your 20 activities will fit in this category. And the activity of today is search and research tools, which is part of web of data. So activity 1, it's about exploring Google search. something that you may have done already today. Surely you have used hundreds of times in last week. Okay? So you will find on study space an activity brief in the assignment section. It's already there. Okay? So read it carefully, start researching the answers, and then I am providing each activity with a link, and you will get a form with box to ticks, places where to enter a bit of text to explain things, and you submit. And that's your submission of your activity. Okay. Best of luck for your first activity. Thank you very much for your attention. You will get the YouTube link very soon, and the slide hopefully in the next
I've
20
never seen that type of video. There's some mobile players with Bill Gates or something.